We have not yet went to chapter 8.
Okay.
We're at chapter 7. So maybe you're reading ahead. Maybe you're just ready to be at chapter 8. But the question was, since I believe we ended on page 180, um, about halfway or two-thirds of the way through Ethics at the Beginning of Life, Part 2. If there's anything we needed to discuss before moving into chapter 7. So
Well,
some pretty crazy stuff with the IU or the IVF and frozen embryos and how many parents can somebody have, and is your genetic material really yours privately, or is it like government property, or it's crazy to have to think about.
well, the one thing I with the IVF stuff in general is, man, this is crazy. I don't even know. This is crazy. I just go back to every time I think about stuff like that, I think about what she said. It's like, why? It's like we can do it, but it's like, should we do it? I just keep thinking of that because that's so true. I'm so glad you said that so much.
Absolutely. I mean, that's medical technology outpaces ethical questions by about 2 decades. So this book was released in
You think that
2018.
you think that far out, 2 decades?
That's what they used to say that the average was. It might be closer now, but I don't know. It's
Yeah.
some of
Mm.
this stuff is so far out that you, you think how in the world did we get to this point? Like like the intentions of the this is the one that really kind of made me stop and think, and it's still kind of been in the back of my mind for a couple of weeks. Page 190, 191. Is surrogacy baby selling? What is the intention of the um, the gestational parent? I guess I'll say it that way. What is the intention going in? Is it purely um, platonic? That is, I'm just doing this. I'm renting out my body and the the gestational abilities of my body, and I'm freely not choosing not to have any rights towards this child. Or am I thinking this child is mine, but I'm actually selling my child? In which case, you come back to the idea of selling people and slavery. And yes, sir.
It's almost a complete opposite of abortion. And I think it, and the reason why I say that is because I was like, if you read all the laws on it, right, which the book talks about, it's almost
Mm-hmm.
like it's one of those things where it's like, how far can I go to not commit a sin, but to commit a sin is what surrogacy reminds me of, right? It's like we're so close, we're right there, but we stop. You know what I mean? It's like, man, it's almost you did everything else but the one thing. It's like you handed the gun to the guy, you drove the car to the murder scene, you drugged the body, you chopped the body up, but you didn't kill him though. It's like you did everything else but the one thing.
It it it's the fundamental question we've always asked as humans: how far can I go without actually crossing over into sin?
Right.
I mean, Satan in the garden told Eve, surely you will not die if you touch it.
Yep.
So she touched it. Oh, nothing happened. Well, yeah, because that wasn't the rule. The rule was don't eat it.
Yep.
So surely, if you haven't died because you touched it, surely it must be good for food. So took a bite. Yeah, surely you didn't die. Nothing happened. So surely it must be good. Here you go, Adam. But the rule was given directly to Adam. He partook of the fruit, and then sin entered the world. So
Well, and another thing
It's
too on
crazy.
that, on the surrogacy thing, which we talked about last time when we were in person. Um, I guess it kind of depends on like how you go about the laws, because like this how you look is how you look at that. Because like I guess if maybe if you say you don't really care, then you're just giving birth to a child. I mean, is that really selling? I don't know. That's a hard question. I don't know.
It's
I'm just trying to think about it. I don't know actually.
it's
What do you think then? I want to hear.
well, I mean, depending on what I mean, I think God. I mean, the more we study this, the more and more the simplicity of God in one man and one woman making a family together versus what we have done in studying this in the modern landscape of bringing the next generation into the world. It's mind-boggling. We can have a man and a woman, but at the same time we can have a third person, carrying the child of the first man, and the man and the woman, and this third woman's carry or this second woman's carrying the baby, and it can be just it's any combination of how to make a child, and we can do something with the stem cells, and we can do something with the the woman's egg in order to trick it into thinking it's been fertilized, and we can human clone, and then we'll get into that in the next chapter, and it's just crazy. But we're not yet to the point of asking, is this something we should be doing? We're just seeing if we can do it. And I think we're right at that point of asking, is this a good idea? I think it said back in 2006, maybe 1996, was when we had the first successful cloning of Dolly the sheep. So I mean, we're right there at about the right time for asking, is this even a good idea? But if you think about how you choose to answer this question of um, what constitutes the selling of a person versus the mere renting out of services, I mean, that gets dangerously close to.
Prostitution.
That's what I was waiting to see if anybody else made that same connection. I mean, it gets dangerously close to that. And
Well, I guess they're going to say if they're giving their legal right up and willingness, then it's not the same thing, but it's yet again, we're so close to it. I mean,
it's the waters that we have waded into with technology and bringing about life, and mind-boggling. But chapter 7, ultrasound imaging of an unborn child is considered routine anymore. The ability to test the amnio fluid is regularly offered to women over age 35. Why do you suppose that is?
hmm.
Why drop an age number onto like over age 35? Why aren't we testing all, amniocentesis for all babies, regardless?
Gets higher rate of, something going wrong, maybe because of
Okay.
the woman's older. It's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, we have found statistically that there are more things likely to go wrong. The older, a
Like after
lady,
30s, it starts getting more sketchy. I know that.
yeah, you start running into higher percentages or likelihoods of problems. But do you think that it's explained that way when the test is offered? Probably not. Yeah,
No.
I was kind of wondering to myself, do you think parents and hospitals have the same motive in whether or not they choose to have this test? And I don't know that they do. Sir.
Did I tell you guys that they're saying now that the ultrasound has a potential to cause like autism and other stuff? They're not 100% sure, but they're saying that it could be a link to it from just the ultrasounds.
I had heard that they had said something about they had thought there might be a link or a causation of something from ultrasounds, but I just heard the news flash. I didn't hear like the
Yeah,
entire story or anything.
me either, me either.
My theory with all of this is that it's these things are offered as a more of a convenience type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've talked about it before in here about how you can somehow test if the child has some form of Down syndrome or any what people would call issues. Um, which my cousin, in fact, they had this test done to check for those things, but they did it in the sense of like, we want to know to better prepare before the child's
Mm-hmm.
here. That was their motive behind it. But I think the main reason that they offer these things is, like I said, for a convenience of, well, this child's going to give you difficulty. So, which that kind of, I don't know if this is true for everybody, but from the experience that we've gotten and just the people that I've talked to, when you're talking to somebody in the medical industry, if they, let you know that, hey, this child's going to have issues, one of their immediate reactions is, do you still want to go along with this
Right,
pregnancy, or do you just want to terminate it? So it's a convenience thing of, well, this is going to be harder for you since this kid has what we're going to call an issue. So do you just want to get rid of this issue altogether? But
Yeah.
and then that was kind of a comment that I had on the previous chapter and just this entire chapter is it seems like mankind just doesn't well, you guys were already talking about it, but mankind doesn't know the limit between staying man and trying to play God.
right.
So,
And I think that's what the ultrasound is. I mean, it's like, oh, we're having a kid. Yeah, it's awesome. Thanks, God. Right? Say you had it naturally. Even if you have it naturally, right? Oh, thanks, God. But then you turn around and go, well, hang on. Did God do something that I don't like? Let's see. Let's figure out. And it's like, oh, come on, man. I hope your kid's gonna have problems. And I think it is a convenience thing. But then it turns into like what you said, like then it's evil. And then it's like, well, guys, this could be surprise. It's wrong.
yeah, which when my wife was pregnant, we got there's two ultrasounds that we had done, and the first one was I can't remember how many weeks along she was, but it was to figure out if we were having a boy or a girl. Because I my thing was I said I didn't want a bunch of yellow clothes. So if you don't know, that's usually one of the go-to colors is yellow. But and then we had her 20-week ultrasound where they like it was wild. They measured like the length of like each knuckle of each finger and like
Oh
just
wow.
tiniest stuff like that.
Oh,
which it's more of a checkup for the baby more than anything. But yeah,
Something else to add too about like ultrasounds and things that we've already talked about. This is not symptomatic, but it reminds me of like a symptomatic. I keep getting you to show up, I get you the ultrasound, I get another ultrasound, then I tell you it's got problems. I keep getting you to come back for all these things, and I keep making money off of you until eventually it's like, oh, well, it's gonna be a lot of problems, so we're gonna terminate it. This is how much it's gonna cost. I mean, because some of these things just keep getting you go back and back and back, and they just keep getting more money out of you.
yeah. I saw a video earlier this week or later last week, I mean. And this guy, he was diagnosed with some sort of cancer, and the doctors, they were like, "So do you want to start chemo?" And he's like, "Well," and he proposed this other like alternative solution, and the doctor was like, "If you do you think that, if we had a silver bullet for this, that we wouldn't use it?" And he's like, "That's exactly what I think because you wouldn't make any more money off of me."
Yeah.
So, I think there's a lot of truth to that. So,
so I kind of see the way that we're talking about this almost like the Israelites when they're about to go into the promised land. The first time they sent spies in, it was to see whether or not we should go and do what we've already been told to do. And the second time was we're going to go in and spy out the land, but the question isn't whether or not we're going to go in, it's how's the best way to go in. And I kind of see that as the the kind of relating to the testing a little bit, with you saying about the couple having the testing. It's the question is never going to be whether we're going to have this child. It's how we can best be prepared to care for this child if something is to be the case. So the consensus among the bioethic and legal community is that all genetic information should be kept private. And you think about that. If you've had any kind of genetic testing done, wouldn't it be kind of a downer if you were denied employment or insurance because your genetic information was disclosed? I mean, what if you were discriminated against because of your genetic code? Well, you're predisposed to having cancer, so we're going to want somebody that's not predisposed because we don't want to have to train somebody and we don't want to have to we just don't want that risk, so we're just going to hire somebody. We're going to go a different direction. I mean, that seems so unheard of, but being discriminated against for genetic reasons would be on par with like racial or gender discrimination. Well, we don't want to hire a lady because she might decide to have a family and then she'll want to take off for maternity leave, and um, family aspirations will be conflicting with career aspirations, and we don't want that to be an issue at the company here, so we're just going to go a different direction. There's not a lot of difference there, and it's scary to think that at one point we had to sit down and think about this. And I guess to some degree we might still be thinking about it. Adam, you're awfully quiet, sir.
Not, I'm just thinking.
Okay.
This reminds me, it's still very prevalent today. Uh, I get tested for being on steroids, and all these things that make me bigger, better, stronger, so on, whatever. And the guy next to me, he gets tested, right? But I'm like, oh, how come, so and so is better, this and that? I thought he got tested. Well, I mean, I don't know. So then you're automatically just, cut loose or you lose a competition and so on. And it's just like, what the hell, It's like a unfair advantage. And you can look at it the other way, like we talked about, oh, he's got problems, so we gotta cut him loose
Mm-hmm.
from birth before he even got a chance to fight.
So when we go to use genetic information or genetic testing or whatever the case may be, what if we're using this for specifically for gender reasons? China had this rule for a lot of years. Uh, one child per family, and everybody wanted a boy. What do you do with that? Now they have a problem of too many men and no women to kind of keep population balanced.
It was somewhere in here. I thought it was this book I read where it said if everybody wanted to get married, there'd be a lot of guys single. And it gave the statistic. I thought it did. I thought it was in here. I'll have to find it. Which is crazy to think.
But if you think about reasons for choosing to end a pregnancy or to stop the pregnancy short of viability in full term, what are we assuming about the unborn child?
What do you mean assuming?
What I mean, if we're making decisions about this unborn child on whether or not they're worthy of life, what decisions are we making, or what are we assuming about that child?
You're already devaluing the human life form already. I
Yeah,
think.
that's exactly it. We have already downgraded this child, or we're operating from the mindset of this child somehow has to rise to the level of humanity or worthiness of life. We've talked about from at least a couple of class sessions back, the idea of being endowed with certain inalienable rights. And I know that that's in the Constitution, and God's been creating long before we had the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. But it we are endowed by our Creator with certain uninfringible rights, and we are conceived as human beings. That right there alone is worthy of protection of life. So ending a pregnancy for reasons of genetic maybe abnormality automatically is making that unborn child somehow less than. Yes, sir.
Reminds me of the videos that you had us watch, which were really good. Uh, it was kind of like I have something, but these people had what I have and more. And it was the part where he's asking them, do you think they're not, that your life should have been ended and it's not worth living? And, he's actually asking them, they get the answer. And you can physically tell and even hear the way they're talking. You're like, oh man, they got some issues. And that's crazy. I mean, I think everybody should watch that, before you decide to let your child be, not given a chance to have life.
Yep.
That was pretty powerful to watch.
Being that we're Louisville Bible College, we're in close proximity to this individual, but there is a uh, fiddle player named Michael Cleveland I don't know if you've ever heard of him or not. He he's pretty much done everything you can do musically, on the biggest musical stages possible for what he likes to do. Um, he started out with bluegrass, but honestly, he can play it all. I've never heard him not be able to be the best on stage wherever he goes. Um, been blind since birth. Um, like 90% deaf in one of his ears. Tons and tons of medical problems, tons and tons of surgeries. But Grammy winner. He plays in like these all-star bands for. Uh, just look him up sometime. It's crazy, but he would have been a prime candidate for somebody who, if the doctors had been successful in convincing, probably should not have been here by doctor suggestion standards. And I think about how many other individuals throughout history maybe that would have contributed great things to society, maybe we just kind of went the other way from. And I mean, we'll never know. But even those who wouldn't have done worldwide accolade things, still deserving of the right to life because they're created in the image of God. And kind of going along with the idea of assuming less than personhood, we're presuming things about them. It's like you said in those videos, some of the ones with the challenges were actually asked, would you have just preferred just to have been aborted and not even have the chance of life? I don't think anybody in those videos said, yeah, I think it would have been better just to pass go and not have to deal with this. It's awfully presumptuous for us to be able to judge a life not worthy of living when it's somebody else that would be doing the living of it.
Do you think these issues that the doctors present or say they are going to have, do you think they make them out more worse than they probably are going to be or ought to be?
I don't know. I think that, see, because this stuff that we're dealing with in these chapters is very stressful.
That's why I'm asking, because
I mean,
I'm too
I think
young to answer or to know the answer to this.
from the way I conceive things in my mind, it seems to me like the job of doing this is really the job of three people. I mean, they have bioethicists, which just deal with like the biology type stuff, like the beginning of life, end of life, how do we bring life into existence kind of stuff. They're the ones who just sit and think about this stuff and all the potential problems and issues that arise and stuff kind of like what we're doing here in the classroom.
Okay.
But then we also have like hospital chaplains who,
Right.
while they are ministering to people, they're not like ministering, like for evangelism, let's baptize you, let's bring you
They're on their
salvation.
way out. Yeah.
They're dealing with people's pain in the moment, or in some cases joy or whatever it may be inside the walls of the hospital, but they're also having these difficult conversations. um, like what does it mean, what's the deeper meaning, what's the spiritual side of things, what's the humanity side of this.
Right.
And I think our medical doctors are, here's the information, cut and dry, your child has a 62% chance of this or this, but if it's not this, there's still a 15% chance of this over.
this other thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, a lot of times we think of doctors, especially like in a hospital, like in an ER or something like that, or someone who's undergone surgery. Lots of times we think these doctors are kind of cold and standoffish. And I think it's a way of self preserving, because if they let themselves get involved emotionally, you, I
It'll
mean,
hurt them and you too. Yeah.
exactly. I mean, it could
Yeah.
it could destroy them personally, um, if they allow themselves to emotionally invest. So
Right.
I think the emotionally investing is left to the chaplains, and the bioethicists are the ones that kind of think through all these issues, and
Right.
kind of help the doctors and the chaplains figure out how to care for the family or the individual, if it's the case that the individual has to relearn life.
Well,
Um,
the only thing I'll say about that is, then you get into the metrics of, if the medical guy's just telling you the facts because he doesn't want to be emotionally tied to whatever it is, to whatever happens, then you just
uh-huh.
kind of, a lot of people just turn into numbers, Oh,
Yeah.
case number 5,692 has got
Mm-hmm.
blah 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 blah, and that's it. There's no longer care, empathy, or anything. It's just because we're so medically advanced that we're not asking ourselves these questions. So then they have to make it turn into a number. So I would almost argue that these questions these started to be asked so then the doctors can know what basis to go off of so they can be more human-esque instead of trying to play God in every aspect to become just a number.
And it could be, it could be a case where we have doctors who are preparing themselves to be able to uh, better relate information to the family.
Another thing to think of too, Jacob, with your question you asked earlier is doctors, they're human, so they're wrong. I don't want to say many times, but it's not a rare occasion that a doctor's wrong in something. Um, so, they might be relaying the information that they know to the best of their ability. Um,
Right.
that,
And you're making that decision off of that. Yeah.
yeah. So, because I mean, there's just one example is there's a um, family member of mine. I don't, should be some distant twice, third, second removed cousin. I don't know how that relation would be.
That's fine.
But she was told that, her and her husband would never be able to have kids for whatever reason. So the doctor proposed, these other means of having children. Um, and they said, no, if it's in God's will for us to have a kid, we will. If not, then not. And the doctors, several of them told him it's impossible. And now they have perfectly girls. So, but I don't,
So they were wrong.
I think it also just depends on the individual doctor. Yeah, you're going to relate that information. So, what their individual value of life is. So,
All right, so we
that
have. Go ahead.
no, that's all I was going to say. I was just going to say that's what I thought of when he asked that question earlier.
So also sometimes this testing is not completely 100% accurate. I think there are different tests that have different levels of accuracy, but one thing is for sure: once you have chosen to end life, you know they manage to do that 100%, effectively, and there's no going back once that decision is made. So we always want to remember that because a test shows something doesn't necessarily mean that the test is 100% accurate. And when we have these children that have been brought into the world with challenges, there's no correlation or there's no connection between having additional challenges or disabilities and happiness or unhappiness. There's no there's no connection between disability and heightened unhappiness. It's like the guy that I was talking about, the guy that plays the fiddle, and he's literally, he has people that come and get him because he's like he's the one that people want to play with. That and he's blind from birth, can't see a thing, never has. That he's got the people that come get him. He's got his handlers that drive him to Nashville, that drive him to the airports, that fly him everywhere. I mean, he. I mean, and that's almost like it's what he was made for. He's always on the go. He's always somewhere, and you watch him. You watch facial expressions while he's playing on stage. He's in the zone, man. He is. He's in the zone and doing what he's supposed to do, and he's having the time of his life doing it. And I think there are so many others who have additional challenges who, when they find the thing that makes them tick, when they find the things that makes them happy, I don't think the additional challenges are a factor for them the way that we see them. I think they see them as just something they've always had to deal with. Other people don't, but from our perspective, we look at that and think, we start to feel, almost pity or sorrow. And I don't think these individuals are necessarily looking for that. I think they're looking to be accepted as, hey, I'm here, I'm a person too, and treat me as an equal. But we have, and I'm looking at page 210, I'm looking at this gray box where there have been individuals who have been giving medication to people who have these additional challenges to try and be able to help them better. Children born with severe disabilities such as cerebral palsy, these independent caregivers are giving them growth, basically stunting their growth, stunting their not just growth in size, but their maturity as well into full grown adults in order to stop monthly cycles in women, to keep them from growing in order to be able to just physically handle them better. Getting them in and out of bed, getting them to a sponge bath or whatever it might be. Removing organs that are reproductive, and just I just wrote to the side, why is this not labeled as abuse for the sake of convenience? And maybe that was a gut reaction because I don't think I researched it any further than that. I just thought to myself, how is this not abuse for convenience purposes? Unless we're taking the position this person is less than 100% human.
I guess they're gonna say it's for the greater good, huh?
They may say that.
I think that's what a lot of people say. Well, you're not dealing with this person. They're a lot to deal with, so this is what we have to do to make it better. Better in their eyes, right? Not the person.
And that is a defense that I think would be likely to be heard.
Wouldn't you argue that would make that person almost mentally handicapped then at that point?
Potentially.
I mean, I don't know. I obviously have done the research, but I would assume it could get to that point.
Maybe, but I don't know that. I don't know that any of the palsies like cerebral palsy, I don't know that necessarily has affects intelligence at all. I'd have to do research on that. I mean, not that it would make a difference in whether or not
Right.
this, not that it would make a difference like in this person being 100% human, but it may be a way that someone might attempt to justify behaviors. So we have some of the, I don't want to say more popular, but more more widely considered, I guess maybe more in the news for whatever reason. This idea of choosing certain characteristics about your child before they're conceived. For instance, the most basic, is boy or girl. I want to choose what we're going to have, not leaving it to chance, not leaving it to any. We're going to pick what we're going to have. And our textbook says this has been, a technology or um, something of governmental interest going all the way back to the 1960s, going back to population control. So, what do we think? Is this a good idea? Yes, sir.
I'm just looking at what you're talking about, so I was trying to see on 212. This is what I thought before he even said it. Take my word for it. Obviously, it says since the purpose of medical technology are generally to relieve or cure the effects of the entrance of sin, and then he goes, then using sex selection technology would be acceptable only because the sex of the child was somehow the result of the entrance of sin. And that's the same thing I thought. I was like, wait, hang on, man. We're talking about medical things. I thought this was supposed to be for people that had a problem going on. This ain't a problem. Why are we changing this? Why are we doing this?
Well, it depends on who you ask. I
Well,
mean, you go.
but you see my point though, right?
I mean, you go to any first grade class, and all the boys will say boys are better than girls. You go to all the girls, they'll say all the girls are better than boys.
I don't know if you caught that, but I rolled my eyes.
I did. I saw that. You know, but yeah, like I said, it depends on whose word we're taking on this and how we think about it. I mean, I gave the example of going to the first grade class and asking all the boys and asking all the girls, but 40 years ago, go to the Republic of China's government. They'd tell you the same thing. Boys are better than girls. So we're gonna get rid of all the girls. I mean,
Right.
this is some stuff that's
I wish
happened.
Kyle was here. I wish Kyle was here medically so he could tell us what he thought. I mean, yeah.
We'll ask him next week. We're recording, so he's gonna at least hear what we're
I
talking
mean,
about.
but that's something I always grew up on is that was medical was for, some type of a disease or something like that. And now we've turned into, oh, we'll just change the sex or we'll pick the sex, of the child. I don't know. I think it's wrong, honestly.
Yeah, I mean it's designer medicine. I mean, look at the technology we've done with plastic surgery. I mean, it does wonderful things for burn victims and those who have been scarred and disfigured otherwise. But what about if someone just doesn't like the way they look, but they're a perfectly healthy person? Somehow we've made that okay, um, because someone needs to look a certain way for a movie part or uh, whatever the case may be, and it's just kind of trickled its way down from uh, those kinds of things to, hey, anybody can do this.
Hey, Donnie,
Sir.
this is a thought that kind of came into my mind recently. Like, we literally plastic surgery to life and made our own sci-fi movies.
Okay.
Like, it's like really to that extent now, whatever, like, sci-fi movies like there are. We're trying to recreate thoughts and ideas from that in real life.
I could kind of see that a little bit. Um, but we get the idea that we the one of the ways that we decide which child we want, what sex of the child we want to have, is that we're just going to make a whole bunch. We're going to give the lady this super drug that makes a bunch of the eggs come out at once, and then they're they're all fertilized, and then we just wait to see what happens with the differentiation, whether they're going to be male, the embryos are going to become male or female. And for lack of a better way of saying it, we pick the one we want and have to figure out what to do with the rest. And it says in our textbook, top of page 211, starting on the third line, the embryos of the sex not desired are normally discarded. Since the discarding of embryos is the moral equivalent of abortion, this method is seen as equally problematic as sex selection abortion. So, yeah, we found a way to achieve what we want to achieve, but at the same time, we've created, excessive human life that we knew from the beginning we didn't want, but we just needed statistics to be on our side, statistical probability to be on our side. So we get the one, maybe the two we want, and then we have to figure out what to do with the rest.
Which argues if those are even kids, right? Like, are those
So,
children? Like, that's what.
from their perspective, yeah.
Well, and well, if they're getting rid of these quote unquote cells, they want to say, are they not kids?
Mm-hmm. So we have another way of making the children the desired sex children, which we're able to separate the man's biological material and just take what we need, and essentially manufacture the child we want. And it says in our textbook the cost is far lower than methods that involve IVF. And I have a thought to the side here that cost should not be a guiding factor, but may help someone make a more favorable choice, even if it's not for the morality of it. So I mean, this if someone is bent on going down this road, not that cost should be a factor above doing what the right thing is, but maybe saying, hey, this is a more effective way to do this without creating excessive life that we're going to essentially abort.
Sin is cheap, but it costs you everything.
And what?
Sin is cheap, but it costs you everything.
It is. Absolutely. And then I kind of took a theological turn in this one, the paragraph, most of the way down the page, where it asks the question, is there anything intrinsically wrong about choosing the sex of a child? And that kind of put the brakes on my mind from just kind of ripping into creating excessive embryos, and the idea of abortion and all these things. And it kind of made me take a step back to, is there anything intrinsically wrong with choosing the sex of a child?
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's God's decision to make, not us. I don't know if it's a sin, but I think it's still not. I think you're playing the role that he's supposed to play.
That's kind of where I landed with Obviously, 3 or 4 lines down, the author, gives his thoughts. It is entirely possible for human interaction through the use of technology to completely undermine God, his sovereignty, our trust in him, to where God has nothing to do with it. And just that really kind of put the brakes on my mind. Is that's essentially what we're doing here, because the medical community and those who have been trained in the medical schools and whatnot, generally they produce atheistic or anti-theistic uh, doctors, and that's not a blanket statement that all doctors are non-believers or anything like that, but just they have this framework built to where man is the beginning and end of everything. Therefore, we can do whatever we want. We don't have this higher power that we're answering to.
This kind of reminds me of the Psalm. I had to pull it up. The Psalm 139, 13 and 14, where it says, "You made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb." This is the NLT, but it says, "Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it." Um, and kind of, along the same lines of what you guys said, it seems like we're taking that responsibility of God's into our own hands. So, and I just had another, I guess, question to kind of go off of your question. Um,
Okay, that's what we're doing here.
would this make it wrong for us to even pray for a boy or a girl? If somebody's pregnant,
What do you mean?
like if somebody prays to, asking God to give them a boy, asking them to give them a girl,
Right.
um, you know, does that mean that even doing that's wrong? Which I
No,
kind
because you're still
of,
leaving the decision up to God.
yeah, yeah.
I just
So
think it's wrong the way they go about. I mean, the way they go about it's wrong. But like I said, I mean, no one play the role of God. That's what I think, at least.
yeah,
I don't know that it's wrong to have a particular leaning one way or the other. I mean, men usually want boys, women usually want girls. I don't think there's necessarily wrong with having a particular leaning one way or the other. Um, I think if you were willing to just completely walk out on your family over, you know, the one that you least preferred being the result, I think there would be some definite problems there. Um, but I think also, you with God's sovereignty, I think you got to give you what you need. I mean, not saying that the child's not going to be their own person, but at the same time, maybe the particular individual is going to grow in ways that they wouldn't have by, for instance, being the father of a daughter versus the father of a son. Or maybe they'll eventually have more children and have this family where both are in coexistence.
And praying for something you can argue is a desire doesn't mean it's going to happen anyways. I mean, and people say well, God gives you desires. I don't know if that's true or not, but I mean, it's still a desire, I believe.
But our writer says clearly, one's sex is not a disease or a curse. If a couple views one sex as a curse or some affliction, there are definitely bigger issues at stake than simply the ethics of sex selection. Like, where in the world is this person coming from that's caused them to believe this? You know, Scripture is clear that both sexes are viewed as equal before God, equally created in His image. There's no place in the Christian worldview for a view of gender status that puts one as inferior to the other, less valued than the other. And that's what we have to constantly put before um, our people today in the church, is that there are men's roles and there are women's roles in church. And the lady's role is a role of submissiveness. But that does nowhere in submissiveness does that mean lesser than. Nowhere does that, we get this idea of we have to submit, and I think we get it, as men. I think sometimes we get it in our minds. The idea is like a submission hold in WWE wrestling or something. It's like, we're making her submit. She's going to be my doormat to do anything I say anytime I say. No, that's not what it is. And the best way I've thought to be able to describe it is, think of like two people in a ballroom dance. It takes just as much effort and courage to follow as it does to lead. They're both working together. They're both fulfilling the role God has given them. Neither is lesser than the other. Neither is greater than the other, except in the role of leadership, where somebody's got to be in charge. But also with greater this greater leadership role comes greater responsibility. What are the men allowing to be carried on with? And if when the Lord comes, he's coming for the men and going to say, what did you allow to go on? Because you were in the leadership role.
What do you think about this? Is that though the Bible, children are referred to as a gift. It says it's at the bottom of 212. It says Psalms 127:3.
Okay.
And it also says, to receive with gratitude and without specifications. What do you think about that? Look up the
I'm,
Psalms
I mean,
is.
I'm in agreement. We see a lot of times in Scripture that
7:3. It says children are the heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from him. That's NIV.
yeah. So children were the way. Specifically boys were how inheritance was given in biblical times. If the man died, the inheritance didn't go to his wife. It went to his son if he had one. If he didn't have one, there were problems. That means that all the property went back into kind of the general trust of Israel to be redistributed or whatever. So the the women, the especially the man's widow. She could potentially be left destitute. So it was very much an important thing for a man to have a male child. But if there were daughters, sometimes they were married off into other families. Sometimes there were allegiances that were formed, family allegiances that were formed, bonds that were formed because of that. So it's not that the daughter was completely devalued. It's just from the cultural standpoint, if there's got to be somebody to inherit, or else the family line could end and the family wealth could end. But I like what it says here. It says, in addition, for any person or couple who would go to such lengths to use sex selection technology, there should be ethical issues that have to do with the expectations of the child of the desired sex. For example, it is not uncommon for families not only to want a girl, but also a girl of a certain type. Sometimes these expectations reflect gender stereotypes that may actually be harmful to the child. Parents could go to such great lengths to have a child of a desired sex, only to have that child fail to live up to those expectations. At the least, the child could feel pressure to conform to those expectations, which may or may not be consistent with how God has wired the child to operate in life. Parental obligations seem to include allowing the child to become the person God has uniquely made them to be, giving him or her as much of an open future as possible. I would think there would be nothing worse than to go to all this trouble to select the sex of the child, select the looks of the child, only to have that child not own up to the expectations. Any thoughts?
Yeah, that would be hard to live a life like that, especially knowing about it. That's almost abuse at that point.
I would say so. I'd say that would definitely be an abusive type situation where we're trying to force this child to be a musical prodigy, to be a athletic superstar.
Or like it could be like, yeah, a physical thing that you have to constantly look at and know you have, and then not even mental. That's crazy.
It is crazy, and I don't know that there's a better way to describe it. It's crazy.
Because it's not like you can get rid of it as well, if you think about it.
Well, we have the adoption agencies. We
Well,
have
no. You misunderstand. If you were that child and you have these things, you can't necessarily get rid of them because they're part of you. So it's a constant reminder of, oh yeah, blah blah blah, you know.
yeah. Well, I think we are well overdue for a break. Come back at 7:30. That's 11 minutes. Give everybody time to get a cup of coffee or whatever you need, and be back to finish off this chapter. All right, we are back. So we kind of alluded in our last parting thought about children who may be, or the desire to bring children into this world not only with the correct sex, but that have expectations placed on them from the time of conception. They're going to be the Rhodes Scholar. They're going to be the first round draft pick, or they're going to go first round in the draft, or they're going to get the full ride college scholarship for whatever ability that we're shooting for when we manufacture or genetically engineer this child into existence. So we have to ask ourselves, what are we doing? What is our intention? What is our goal with genetic intervention, gene editing, genetics editing, and this idea of designer children?
It seems like there's no good intention.
I think it's all very self-centered motivations. It's not about this child and bringing this child into the world um, to be who God is intending them to be. It's building the child we intend on having.
I think a lot of celebrities do this, you know. I'm not up to date on any of that stuff, or never have really have been, but I know of there's been some that have done that. And it's not, I don't think it's fair, man. You know, it goes back to the steroid thing. It's not fair. You get a better life, you know, so on. And yeah, I think it's morally wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it could further widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots if we figure out how to do this and do it effectively. Um, Stronger people become even stronger. Smarter people become even stronger. The more beautiful become more beautiful. Even though beauty's in the eye of the beholder a lot of times. But
It's like why it's just like why have God if we can just pick what our child looks like, you know,
yeah,
or
or
can do or whatever.
we have an article that we're going to get to on page 219, but I I draw attention to it because it says, who chooses the traits to be enhanced into the next generation? If humans are so morally deficient that we need moral enhancement, how can we be trusted to make the wise choices that will foster more enhancement and not debasement? And I think about that because this gene therapy and this genetics and this and this chapter doesn't use the word, but it does in this gray box article on 214, the new eugenics. Anybody familiar with eugenics?
I've heard the word, I don't really know what it means.
It's basically what Hitler did in trying to create a race that is called the master race. The you like all blonde hair, blue eyes,
A certain look.
yeah, wonderful looking people. And Hitler actually believed he was helping evolution along in eradicating those who were of weaker genetic stock. Now, obviously, we all know that everyone's created in the image of God, but he was operating from the idea that he's helping uh, evolution, which was blind evolutionary forces, by giving them an eye, giving evolution a set of eyes in a direction. So this idea of we're not as far from this old idea of eugenics as many people would like to think. And the reason I say that is because eugenics was a big movement in the United States 100 years ago. Now, it was largely a fringe theory, but it was a fringe theory held by like the millionaires and the billionaires that kept pumping money into it. So it stayed around because we had these, the Jeff Bezos and the Elon Musks of that day pumping that kind of money into it. But this idea that, what happens when we start making hair and eye and skin color inferior to one another? White people are, and of course I'm not speaking, factually. I'm, speaking as, kind of in a critical manner. But who's to say that white is better than black because we got to America first and we were able to take it from the Native Americans, and what white is superior except for in just some of the other ways. I mean, we look at some of the other skin colors and we make assumptions. Sometimes, and many times, they're derogatory. We had an NBA team owner of an NBA team. Of course, most of his players were black players, but he was recorded making a racist rant to the point that the NBA forced him to sell the team because he went on a racist rant, even though it was private. Somebody recorded it. There are certain stereotypes that are made about all of the races. Asian people tend to be are stereotyped to be smarter because we know that Japan places a very high level of dedication to their education system. We know that in the Dominican and in the islands down there, we have a lot of baseball players coming up. That's not to say that someone from the Dominican can't be smart. It's not to say that someone who's of a different skin color can't do these things. But what happens when we start making hair color, eye color, skin color, better or worse than the other? What happens?
Division.
Nothing
Chaos.
good. Chaos. I mean, nothing good comes from it. Nothing. I mean, and nothing beneficial comes from it. Nothing good comes from it. We divide ourselves.
I'm gonna choose to stay quiet on the subject. I could talk about this all night.
Our writer in this gray box says, that this idea, we're not as far from the old eugenics, the bad old eugenics, as many bioethicists would like to think. Physicians and the bioethics community have been far too swift to make judgment about other people's quality of life. In application of the enhancement of biotechnology. So we're going to enhance people, and we've already been artificially doing it. I mean, look at the steroids era of baseball. I mean, Babe Ruth had a 60 home run season that stood in the record books for 30 years. Roger Maris had a 61, 62 season, 61 in 1961. I remember that. And that held for 37, 38 years until we had Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire in, I think, 98, 99 season. And those guys were just crushing it. And they were both artificially enhanced on steroids. One guy was from the Dominican, one guy was a white guy. Then we had another guy come along a year or two later, named Barry Bonds. He crushed it. He's got like 70 something home runs for a single season. And I mean, you look at his pictures from when he was like a rookie in the first few years of his playing, he's a little scrawny guy. And then all of a sudden he comes along one year and he has arms the size of tree trunks. What happened there? I mean, there's no amount of weightlifting is going to make that kind of change. I mean, so we've already been artificially enhancing, but what happens when we do this at even a more intricate level on genetics? We have designer children. And what it comes down to is people will go to no end to give their kids what they feel is the best for them. People will do anything, they'll go to any lengths to give their kids the best. But do we really stop and think about what that means? Do we know what that means? And who's the one who should be determining what is best? Especially on this level. I mean, we have people that will cheat to get their kids into the best colleges. We have people that will cheat and let their kids do the steroids or the whatever it is to give them this competitive edge. But what happens when we start going to the doctor to get this competitive edge on a genetic level?
And it's all before you're even born, too.
Yeah. And all this is thrown on this child that hasn't even been brought about yet.
I mean, we can't even wait anymore until, the child is born to start doing these crazy things. It's like before it's even born.
Yeah. Harmful genetic side effects, though unforeseen, could be stopped short of coercively preventing the person from having children. This is the caution about the ignorance of not. It's almost like sending a child into a snake pit. I mean, we're playing with things we don't fully understand. We're manipulating things. We're doing things we don't fully understand. And like I said, aren't children supposed to be gifts from God? To appreciate a child as a gift and to accept them as they are, not as objects of our design or products to be engineered or instruments of our will and ambition. A parent's love should not be contingent on the talents and attributes a child happens to have or not have. And sure, I know you guys have all seen the scenario, at least in a television show or a movie, where a parent tries to live vicariously through their child. My kid's going to be the star of the basketball team because I never was, or my child's going to throw 95 and become a first round pick or whatever. And because they couldn't become successful in their time, they're going to try and force that onto their child. And we spend any amount of money that we have to doing it.
Hey, Donnie, I have a question. Do
I'll do my
you? it- Is it me, or do I almost see a like reverse model with the ones that have made it? And they're like, we know that you have this pressure because they've lived it with their kids, but if some will say if you want to go this route, you can, but if you don't, it's fine. Or is it like almost the whole opposite effect of a different number for the ones that didn't make it and they force it on their kids? Like, I wonder what's the ratio of numbers between that.
There might be studies out there on it. I honestly don't know. But I mean, think about some of the. I mean, think about like the person who's at the very top of their game, or the very top of their profession. Um, well, look at the difference between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Now, I'm not trying to take anything away from LeBron James, but I don't think that his kid has what it takes to be in the NBA, at least not yet. And he tried every way in the world to force that. Michael Jordan, back in his day when he was at the top of his game, I mean, his kids were somewhat talented in basketball. I mean, I think the two oldest played some college ball, but they just didn't have it. And that's got to be stressful. I mean, knowing that you are born into a basketball dynasty, you know, born to the king of basketball of this respective era, whichever player we're talking about, and knowing that that kind of pressure exists. I mean, there was pressure on Jordan's two sons to follow in the family footsteps. There's pressure on LeBron's kids to follow in the family. That's got to put pressure on you. So I mean, I think there's probably societal pressure on like these famous people's kids. Um, but I think a lot of times, we see famous people whose kids get into a lot of trouble. That may be why they're trying to escape the pressure, maybe. But with some of the things that we've looked at with safety, is this genetic engineer? Is it even safe? What are we doing when we produce when we go into manufacturing children? Is it fair the in life to be able to engineer children that we can make them to have the traits we want them to have? You know, jump higher, bench press more, run faster, um, learn more, be more cognitively alert, whatever the concern is, or whatever the desire is to bring forth.
My question is, how do you regulate something like that?
Exactly.
Say you allow it to keep happening. I mean, what do you do?
Exactly. Once you open the box on this, how do you contain it?
I mean,
Yeah, it because like
that's like the question of the day, ain't it?
exactly. I mean, it's like we're playing with stuff we don't fully understand. Once you let the tiger out of the cage, how do you control it?
Right. Because like you don't like I was like I don't know if I said it or whatever, but you don't know if some of these things are going on, you know? Man, that guy can jump really high. I wonder why. That's weird. But you don't know. You're just looking at him, you think a normal person.
Yep. And what happens when we ingrain this in the culture so much that it's like you have to do this if you want your child to be successful. You're essentially locked into not having a choice anymore because so many people are on this bandwagon.
It's a good question.
And what are we underselling by doing this? Do we undercut the notion of hard work? Do we undercut the notion of personal achievement, personal best through perseverance and dedicated work ethic? And do we give our lives further over to the medical profession to say, make me better? Not as in I'm physically ill, I'm a perfectly fine human being, but just make me better. Not in a I'm sick, restore my health, but in I'm perfectly fine, but make me better than fine.
And it goes back to the question of, is the medical industry supposed to fix sickness and so on, or is it here to alter you, make you just the best Iron Man, Captain America you can find?
Absolutely. So the notion of embryos. Bottom of page 122, the last sentence says, if embryos are persons. Technically, science has been able to clone people since 1993. That's a wild idea, and I think it was very well. It was very insightful that the powers that were in place at that time saw fit to put the lid on human cloning before it ever got loose, before it ever got turned loose. But we have ideas of human cloning. It's always been at the forefront of people's minds. We have the technology to do it. Why don't we just do it? Or what would it really hurt to try it once?
Or how about
And
this? I heard this one time from somebody else. Well, you could human clone people and you could take their organs and stuff and help other people out since they're not really humans.
there you go. So we have these ideas of growing spare parts. If I have a bad heart, why don't I just have a genetic double on ice over here in case I need a heart, and you can just go cut it out when I need it, and I'll have one ready to go. Don't have to be on a donor transplant list. Don't have to start going downhill with my health and hoping that a heart becomes available. I got one on ice over here, and it's a perfect genetic match. Matter of fact, it's 100% me, from the beginning.
All you gotta go down to your local hospital and they cut you up and do it for you. It's crazy.
So we have on page 225 kind of a closing paragraph to this chapter, and it goes through all of the different reasons for cloning, to make infertility treatments more cost effective, less costly, providing embryos for research, providing tissue matches for people who need transplants or whatnot. A child could replace another child that's died prematurely. Clones for organs. And I just kind of put a bracket around this entire paragraph and just said cloning seems to be a bad idea most of the way around. But further thought and research is still ongoing in some areas of these listed reasons. But like I said, it seems like it's pretty much a bad idea all the way around. We can do it. We've medically proven we can do it. But it goes back to, just because we can do it, does that mean we should be doing it? And that's like our overarching question for all of ethics is, we can do it, but does that mean we ought to just because we can?
I think my general consensus I've heard from like just all types of people that I've come in contact with, even online that I haven't talked to, is I think a lot of people are skeptical about any type of cloning. I think they're like, that's the one thing that I think a lot of people can agree on is like, ah, man, I don't know about that. Like they don't have a solid answer, but they're just kind of just like, I don't know.
And I think as we've worked through this chapter, I mean, we've seen that it's messy. I mean, there's not clear cut answers once you start talking to people who don't necessarily hold strongly to the Christian faith. No, it's not really a person. Well, why can't we just grow what we need? Why can't we just fertilize a whole bunch of eggs and take the one that we want and just get rid of the rest? What would be wrong with, having a child that has enhanced abilities, enhanced looks, enhanced um, mental acuity and cognitive abilities? What's wrong with having a better looking kid? I mean, as we go to different areas of life, those who may not necessarily hold strongly to Christianity, you might find some answers that just might flat out shock you. But it's the moral waters that we swim in as an American society, really a world society, because the medical profession, spans the borders of the United States. Any thoughts, questions, or comments as we kind of wind down this chapter?
So have they, I guess I could just look it up, but I didn't see anything in here on the human cloning part. Have they done a person before?
I don't think so.
So no one, nothing out there that shows they've done a person.
If they have, they've not publicized it because
That's what I was
I
asking,
think
yeah.
I think it's illegal.
Oh, okay.
Like worldwide, like World Health Organization. I think they've like put the ban on it.
Okay. So they done like a mouse and like real small things, right? That's the only thing they've really done.
Correct. All right, I just did a Google search here. It says there is no credible scientific evidence that a human being has ever been cloned to full term.
I bet they done it before and they just didn't tell anybody.
I'm kind of thinking so because scientists.
Want to see what they can do.
Exactly. I mean, scientists are all about, can I do it? I mean, that there's a reason we get the term mad scientist. It's because it's like they're so driven by the technologies there. It'd be nothing to just go ahead and do it. I wonder, I really do wonder if it's ever been done and just nobody said anything.
Yeah.
Somewhere, else in the world, some backwater place that you'd never think of. I mean, whoever heard of the Wuhan lab before COVID?
Right.
And I mean, look at the kind of stuff they did.
Yep.
I mean, same kind of thing. Probably some out of the way place you've never heard of. It's hard telling what's going on. I mean, I'm not conspiracy theorist or anything, but I mean, It's like, well, at least not conspiracy theorist on this kind of thing, but it's like, when you've got people who are so dedicated to what they do in life, and they're like, the technology's right there. What would be wrong with just doing it once, just to
Right.
see if we can do it?
Genesis 3. Yeah. I guess the only question I have, you don't have to answer it, but the as a fully cloned person, does they have a soul? Does it go to heaven or hell? You don't have to answer.
Depend,
I don't expect you to answer, and I don't know an answer to it, but it's just a question.
Depends on the free will choices they make in life.
Right. Hmm.
But that's all I've got. We don't have anything else. Would somebody like to close us out for this evening?
I can.
I think
Uh,
Adam should do it. He's been too quiet.
Lord, I thank you that we're able to gather here together another week, just that we can study these hard to answer questions. And I ask that you would continue to just grow and equip each one of us for the places that we're going to go throughout our lives, that we would be able to better answer these questions when the need arises. And I ask that you would just be with all the prayer requests that we had, and I ask that you would continue to guide and protect us throughout our weeks. It's in your son's name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. I do have a praise. One of the ministers that we were talking about, who had come to find himself between ministries, did take a ministry in Ohio. So he's got another job that he's looking toward, another ministry opportunity, and a way to stay in the ministry and keep pushing forward for the Lord. I forgot to mention that earlier. So
Good to
grateful,
hear.
grateful for that. All right, That's all I got. I'll keep the line open as long as people stay around for fellowship or whatever, or see you guys next week.
Jacob, I noticed you've got a Bradley Martin sweatshirt on.
Oh man, this is like from like 10 years ago.
I was wondering.
It's super old. Yeah, it's really old. I bought it a long time ago. It's actually really nice, honestly, but it's really
Yeah,
torn up now.
yeah, I've got some of his older stuff too. I was just
Yeah, that
curious.
was before he turned into a absolute piece of crap, if you ask with me. He's
Yeah.
he's not the same as he used to be. So,
No. Well, when you're on that kind of stuff, I think that just kind of happens.
yeah. That's true.
But no, I just noticed I wanted to say something. So,
Oh, you're good. That's all good.
all right, I'll see you guys later.
So, yeah. Not Donnie was go ahead, Adam. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was like, this subject was a little bit iffy for me since I'm was not exactly comfortable or well known on it. So I was just like, I'm just gonna dip tonight on this
Okay.
because I was just like, it was really opened my eyes reading it, and I was just like, wow.
Yeah. And it really makes you wonder, like, what are people's motives in dipping into fixing things on a genetic level? I mean, it's like they've found like people who are predisposed to, like, some women get breast cancer and some don't. They found the gene that they can try and fix on that, to where somebody's family line, they may be able to break the cycle of people in that family line getting breast cancer, or Parkinson's disease, or Huntington's disease, or whatever some of the other stuff may be. But at what point are we addressing fixing the sin problem that has entered into this world, because we know that God didn't create us with the idea that we would get diseases and die. So at what point are we fixing the effects of sin versus trying to engineer ourselves into something we were never intended to be in the first place? It's crazy to think about.
I was just messing with you a minute ago, Adam. Sorry, I didn't mean to get in
You're
vibe.
good. It's just it's crazy.
Yeah.
We're living in crazy times, sir. Crazy times. Tell you what, maybe you give your brain a break and you go and play some Fortnite.
I bet Nick is driving himself crazy by wanting to play with me right now.
It's possible.
Do you guys play often?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
He literally like begs me every Sunday.
Got a friend, man. That's funny.
Good deal.
No, I was gonna tell you, Donnie, it was just a couple days ago. My brother, he just got married this what was it, October, November, what something like that, whatever it was. I'm bad with dates. And she was just saying a couple days ago that she is 30. Man, I'm so bad at this stuff. I think she's 31, 32. She's now realizing that she wants kids now because she's married, and she was like, yeah, I want some kids, and she's like, I just don't know with, I'm a little bit older and I just don't know if that's going to be a possibility, and I just worry if something, if I had a kid, something would happen, it'd come out. Her words were like if it'd come out and have a bunch of problems and so on. And and then she goes, well, like there's a lot of things out there, and I don't know all the things, but I know there's some stuff out there. I've thought about maybe doing like an IVF something. But I just really haven't made my mind up. I'm not too sure, but I think it's possible. I do want some kids. I was just sitting there and I was just like, oh, okay, this is reality's come for me. It's not in a paper book right now. I wasn't. It wasn't just me in the room, but I was just like, kind of like, oh, like I said, I was like, this is happening right now. It's here.
Yeah, it is.
Um, she kind of moved on pretty quick, so I didn't like kind of. She's not a believer. She's an atheist. So I kind of left it alone a little bit. But I would just thought it was pretty cool, man. Just not in a good way, obviously, but that, here it is. It's right here in front of me.
Yep. So
So,
do you like documentaries at all?
it depends, because sometimes I'll lose interest very quickly, so it just really depends why.
Check out Flamekeeper, the Michael Cleveland story.
Let me write it down so I'll forget it right. Is it on YouTube?
Yep.
Okay, 1 second.
I mean, this guy, I mean, he's like, it's nuts how good he is. But I mean, to visually, to see him and to know he's got these problems he's overcame is just, it's crazy. And on top of that, to have the abilities he has, it's nuts.
How do you spell it?
Um, Flamekeeper, all one word, Flamekeeper, and then it's the Michael Cleveland story.
Well, I'm gonna head out, so I'll
All
see you
right,
guys
sir.
later.
Yep. See you later.
Oh, here it is. I found it. Well, that's the trailer though. Oh, here it is. I found it. Oh, here he is. Okay. Yeah, he is blind, huh?
Yep, blind, mostly deaf in one ear, and I forget what all else.
My sister used to play that instrument. Well, she still can, but not doesn't really play them often. Huh. I've heard him before you said it earlier, but uh, that was about it. Sounds pretty good, don't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's the best. I'm kind of predisposed to that music anyway, but I mean, if you hunt around the YouTube long enough, you'll hear him playing all kinds of wild stuff. I mean,
I probably ever listened to country songs or something with him in it and without realizing it.
it's possible.
You know what I mean? Without realizing.
I mean, he does run his own band, but he you can just as often see him playing with some other like all-star ensemble or whatever else. I
Yeah.
mean, his band has played with the Louisville Orchestra in
I've
some
been to my sister's thing with it over there. That's what I'm talking
in,
about. I probably heard him.
yeah, yes, I mean he's done not just a lot in his own favorite kind of music, but I mean he's done it all
Yeah.
across multiple styles. It's just nuts.
Huh. Man, it'd be interesting to see if uh story I was telling you about if my brother's wife. She is one that's like she'll try it all, just a middle finger at the Christian value, you know what I mean? Like that's the type of personality she has. Like, oh, I'm doing it my way, this stuff works, so be interesting to see if what she does. So if she says she's gonna do that thing or whatever, she'll probably do it then. So it'd be hard not to sit there and be like, well, this is how it's gonna go, but I told you so. Oh, it didn't come today, but I bought that one. I don't think I got a bunch of books from my other class, but it didn't make sure. Well, this one did come. Mauritania, I'm sorry. It's How Should We Live? But
Uh huh.
I bought that one. It just got here today. Um, I bought it off Amazon, like the slightly used one, so it's a little bit cheaper. This stuff adds up quick, man, when you buy a couple things for
Uh huh.
books. Anyways. So I just bought it, but I bought the other one that you told me to get too from that one girl.
Yeah, she's pretty sharp. But
Yeah, it's
also,
has some
if
good reviews.
if you're looking for stuff, you might check out Jason. You'll see what the Louisville Bible College Library has that they could loan you.
Yeah, I went to the public library Saturday. There was some it's right here. Let me grab it. Set it down earlier. Got a C.S. Lewis commentary kind of thing. Then I got two older writings, Thomas Aquinas, and then this other one's a collection of like the early church fathers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which I was surprised because I don't know when the last time you went to a place like that, but uh you got stuff like that in there. Then you got um some feel good stuff that's all right, nothing really particularly wrong with it, like kind of like a message Bible type of like commentaries and stuff like that, it's not anything too deep, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then you got stuff like then right next to it you have like a three Joel Osteen's like, pray yourself into a millionaire type of situation,
Yeah.
say these three prayers every day for 10 days, and you'll be a millionaire. And then next to it, you have like a book I just told you about was like just really solid. There's nothing really wrong with it. And then you have like, then you go back to like this other feel good thing. It's really interesting, man. How you can just have such a select variety. And then sadly, I took a picture of it and sent it to one of my friends, but in the same section of all these Christian Bibles on the opposite side, there was like 20 books, just like super evil books. Like this one was a propaganda, I call it propaganda, and I mean that. It was a propaganda book on the gay rights movement and the LGBTQ and uh how it's made so much movement and this and that. And I opened it up and looked at it. Um and the first page I looked at the index and I was like, oh, let's go to this chapter because I thought it was like kind of Christian, kind of nice. Oh, this is kind of, I wonder what this is. And I looked up and I went to one of the chapters and it was like, in 1482, they said sodomy was bad, but let's give the definition and really get into it and why it's really not that bad. I'm like, oh, never mind. This is, no, I don't want to read this.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. It was disturbing because I was like I said, I was like, this is like turn around behind you and then the aisle behind you is you got all these crazy things right there, just so conveniently placed, right?
Yep.
It's kind of sad, because some of those got the more flashy pictures on them, covers and titles, so you want to pick it up first.
Absolutely.
And I forgot I was in the library, and just tell you, you'll probably laugh. I forgot I was in the library, and I had that book in my hand. And when I read that part, I closed the book. I put it back, and I was gonna put it back into the bookshelf. I go, not today, Satan. And I went, oh, that was kind of loud.
I like that. That's good.
But I don't know if anybody saw me or nothing, but it was pretty loud. It's in a library, so it doesn't take much I'd said it in my normal voice, but it's quiet.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny. I realized after I said it, oh, I said that pretty loud, man.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah. So, all right. I'll give a. I'll try to read one of these or something at work. They just got me doing silly stuff, so. uh,
All right. Sounds good, man. Sounds really good.
yeah. Well, thank you for your I wish I asked you before, but thanks for the recommendations. Trying to think of the word. The
All right.
recommendations for the stuff, yeah. Because I'm someone that I don't really know. I don't know all the stuff or who to go to, so
Uh-huh.
yeah. So I'll just start asking next time instead of just buying something.
I'll try to have an answer for you.
All right, I'm gonna head off. I'm gonna get something to eat and so on. So
Yep.
I'll see you
Sounds
next
good.
week.
All right. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.